My name is Myra, and I am 67 years old. 3 weeks ago, my own daughter looked me in the eyes and told me to find somewhere else to die. She had just inherited $53 million and the house I had lived in for 42 years. The house where I raised her. The house where her father took his last breath in my arms. But what Diana did not know was that my husband Harold had left something else in that will. Something that would change everything. Before I share what happened when the lawyer revealed the truth, I want to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. And if stories about family betrayal and unexpected justice touch your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now let me take you back to where it all began. I met Harold in the spring of 1982 at a dusty little bookstore in Portland, Oregon. I was 23 years old, fresh out of college, working my first year as an elementary school teacher. He was 26, an engineer with messy hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. I was reaching for a worn copy of Jane Eyre on the top shelf when his hand reached for the same book. Our fingers touched, and I swear I felt something electric pass between us. He smiled at me and said, "You can have it. I have read it 3 times already." I laughed and told him that was my 4th time reaching for it. We ended up talking for 2 hours in that bookstore, sitting on the floor between the shelves, sharing our favorite passages and dreams for the future. Harold was different from any man I had ever met. He listened when I spoke. He remembered the small things. On our 3rd date, he brought me a first edition of Little Women because I had mentioned it was my mother's favorite book. That was the moment I knew I would marry him. We got married in 1984 in a tiny ceremony at my parents' backyard in Salem. I wore my grandmother's dress, altered to fit my frame. Harold wore a suit he had borrowed from his brother. We had 47 guests, a homemade cake, and more love than any fancy wedding could ever hold. Our first home was a Victorian house on the outskirts of Portland. It needed work. The roof leaked when it rained. The floors creaked with every step. The paint was peeling off the shutters. But when Harold took my hand and walked me through the front door for the first time, he said, "This is going to be our forever home. We are going to fill it with children and laughter and love." And we did. For the first 10 years of our marriage, Harold worked as an engineer while I taught 2nd grade at Jefferson Elementary. We did not have much money, but we had each other. We spent our weekends fixing up the house, sanding floors, painting walls, planting roses in the garden. Harold would play his guitar on the porch while I read beside him. Those were simple days, but they were the happiest of my life. In 1986, our first daughter Diana was born. I remember the moment the nurse placed her in my arms. She had Harold's dark eyes and my stubborn chin. Harold cried when he held her for the first time. He kept saying, "I am a father. I cannot believe I am a father." Diana was a beautiful baby full of energy and curiosity. She started walking at 9 months, talking in full sentences by 18 months. Everyone said she was gifted. Harold and I were so proud. We documented everything. Her first steps, her first words, her first day of kindergarten. 3 years later, Sophie came along. Where Diana was fire, Sophie was water. Calm, gentle, observant. She did not demand attention the way her sister did. She was content to sit with her books, to help me in the kitchen, to follow her father around the garage while he fixed things. Even as children, the differences between them were striking. Diana always wanted the bigger piece of cake, the better seat in the car, the first turn on the swing. Sophie would simply step aside and let her sister have what she wanted. At the time, I thought Diana was just strong-willed. I thought she would grow out of it. I was wrong. The first real sign of trouble came when Diana was 7 years old. Sophie had just turned 4, and Harold's mother had sent the girls matching dolls for Christmas. They were identical in every way, beautiful porcelain dolls with painted faces and lace dresses. But Diana threw a tantrum because she wanted both of them. I tried to explain that sharing was important, that Sophie deserved her own doll too. But Diana screamed and cried until Harold finally gave in. He let Diana have both dolls just to keep the peace. That night, after the girls were asleep, Harold and I sat in the kitchen and talked. He said he was worried about Diana. He said she seemed to think the world owed her everything. I told him she was just a child, that she would learn. Looking back, I wish I had listened to him more carefully. I wish I had seen what he saw. But a mother's love can be blind sometimes. I made excuses for Diana. I told myself she would change. In 1998, everything changed for our family. Harold had been investing small amounts in technology companies for years, using whatever we could spare from our modest income. That year, one of those companies went public. It was a startup he had believed in from the beginning, a software company that nobody else thought would succeed. When the stock price exploded, Harold's investment turned into millions. Overnight, we went from a middle-class family to wealthy beyond anything we had ever imagined. But Harold never changed. He still wore the same flannel shirts. He still drove his old truck. He still spent his Saturdays fixing things around the house. When I asked him if we should move to a bigger home, he looked at me like I had suggested we abandon a child. "This house is not just a building," he said. "It is the heart of our family. Everything important that has ever happened to us happened here. Why would we leave?" So we stayed. We renovated the house, added rooms, updated the kitchen and bathrooms. But we kept the bones of the old Victorian. We kept the creaky floors and the rose garden and the porch where Harold played his guitar. Diana was 12 when we became wealthy, and I watched her change before my eyes. She started caring about brand names and designer clothes. She compared herself to the richest kids at school and felt inferior. She would come home crying because someone had a bigger house or a fancier car. I tried to teach her that money did not matter, that character was what counted. But my words seemed to bounce off her like rain off a window. She was hungry for more, always more. Sophie, on the other hand, remained the same sweet girl she had always been. She did not care about expensive things. She spent her allowance on books and art supplies. She volunteered at animal shelters on weekends. She was everything Diana was not. One evening, when Diana was about 14, she asked Harold a question that broke his heart. We were sitting at dinner when she looked at her father and said, "Dad, why do we still live in this old house? Jenny Morrison's family just bought a mansion with a pool and a tennis court. This place is embarrassing." Harold set down his fork and looked at her with an expression I had never seen before. It was a mixture of sadness and disappointment. "Diana," he said quietly, "this house is where your mother and I built our life together. It is where you and your sister were born. It is where we became a family. No mansion in the world could ever mean more to me than these walls." Diana rolled her eyes and went back to her food. She did not understand. I wonder if she ever did. That night, Harold told me something that stayed with me for years. He said, "Myra, I love that girl more than life itself. But I am afraid of what she might become. I am afraid money is going to destroy her." I held his hand and told him everything would be fine. I told him Diana just needed time to mature. But deep down, I was starting to fear the same thing. Diana graduated from high school with honors and went on to study finance at a prestigious university on the East Coast. She was smart, there was no denying that. But somewhere along the way, she stopped calling home. She stopped asking about us. Her visits became shorter and less frequent. When she did come home, she spent most of her time on her phone or complaining about how boring our town was. Sophie took a different path. She studied social work at a state university, driven by a genuine desire to help people. She called us every Sunday without fail. She came home for every holiday, every birthday, every anniversary. She was the daughter who showed up, while Diana was the daughter who sent excuses. When Diana was 24, she married a man named Marcus. He was a stockbroker from a wealthy family, handsome and charming on the surface. But something about him made me uncomfortable. The way he looked at people like they were beneath him. The way he talked about money like it was the only thing that mattered. Harold did not like Marcus either, but we kept our opinions to ourselves. Diana was an adult. She had to make her own choices. The wedding was extravagant. Marcus insisted on the best of everything. It cost more than Harold and I had spent on our entire first house. I watched my daughter walk down the aisle in a dress that cost more than most people's cars, and I wondered where I had gone wrong. After the wedding, Diana moved to New York with Marcus. We barely heard from her. Christmas cards arrived late or not at all. Phone calls were brief and transactional. She only reached out when she needed something, usually money, for some new venture or investment that Marcus had convinced her was foolproof. Meanwhile, Sophie fell in love with Daniel, a pediatrician she met while volunteering at a free clinic. He was kind, humble, and devoted to helping others. They got married in a simple ceremony in our backyard, just like Harold and I had done 30 years earlier. Sophie wore a dress she had found at a vintage shop. Daniel wore a suit that fit him perfectly. They had 50 guests, a homemade cake, and more love than any fancy wedding could ever hold. The contrast between my two daughters could not have been more stark. Sophie and Daniel settled in a small town about 2 hours from us. Daniel worked at a rural clinic serving families who could not afford healthcare elsewhere. Sophie worked for a non-profit, helping homeless veterans find housing and jobs. They lived in a modest home filled with books and plants and rescue animals. They were happy. Diana and Marcus lived in a penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park. They had a cleaning service, a personal chef, and a closet full of designer clothes. But every time Diana called, which was rare, she sounded miserable. She complained about Marcus working too much. She complained about their social obligations. She complained about everything except the root of her unhappiness. In 2015, Diana's marriage fell apart. She discovered that Marcus had been having an affair with a colleague for over a year. The divorce was ugly and public. Diana lost half of their assets and returned to Portland broken and bitter. She moved back into our house temporarily, claiming she needed time to recover. Harold and I welcomed her with open arms. We thought maybe this was the turning point. Maybe losing everything would teach her what really mattered. But Diana had not changed. If anything, she had gotten worse. She spent her days in bed, scrolling through social media and comparing herself to people who seemed happier than her. She snapped at me when I tried to help. She refused to lift a finger around the house. The worst part was how she treated Sophie. When Sophie came to visit with Daniel, Diana would make cruel comments about their simple life. She called them poor. She mocked Sophie's second-hand clothes. She said things like, "It must be nice not having any ambition. At least you never have to worry about falling from grace." Sophie never fought back. She would just smile sadly and change the subject. But I could see the hurt in her eyes. I could see how much Diana's words wounded her. Harold saw it too. One evening after Diana had made a particularly vicious remark about Sophie's job, Harold pulled me aside. His face was pale, his jaw tight. "Myra," he said, "I have been thinking a lot about the future, about what happens when I'm gone. I need to make sure Diana does not destroy this family." I asked him what he meant, but he just shook his head. He said he had made an appointment with Thomas Brennan, our family lawyer. He said he needed to update his will. I did not ask for details. Harold had always handled our finances, and I trusted him completely. Whatever he was planning, I knew it was for the best. Diana stayed with us for 3 months before finding her own apartment. She never thanked us for taking her in. She never apologized for the way she had treated Sophie. She just packed her bags one morning and left without saying goodbye. Harold watched her car disappear down the driveway and shook his head. "That girl has a lot to learn," he said. "I just hope she learns it before it is too late." In March of 2023, Harold started feeling tired all the time. At first we thought it was just age catching up with him. He was 72 years old after all, but when he started losing weight and experiencing stomach pain, I insisted he see a doctor. The diagnosis came like a hammer blow. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctor said Harold had 6 to 9 months to live. I remember sitting in that cold examination room, holding Harold's hand, feeling like the floor had dropped out from beneath me. We had been married for 39 years. I could not imagine my life without him. I could not breathe. But Harold, my Harold, he was calm. He squeezed my hand and looked at me with those same eyes that had first caught mine in that dusty bookstore 41 years ago. "Myra," he said, "I am not afraid of dying. I am only afraid of leaving you alone." We drove home in silence that day. But that night we talked. We talked about everything. Our life together, the girls, our regrets, our hopes. We talked until the sun came up, and by morning I felt something I had not expected to feel. Peace. Not acceptance, not yet, but a fragile kind of peace. Harold told me he had already put things in order. He said his will was updated, and Thomas Brennan had all the documents. He said he had made provisions to protect me no matter what happened. "I trust you," I told him. "Whatever you have planned, I trust you." He kissed my forehead and smiled. "That is all I have ever needed," he said. When we told the girls about Harold's diagnosis, their reactions could not have been more different. Sophie arrived within 24 hours. She walked through the front door with tears streaming down her face, dropped her bags, and went straight to her father. She held him for what felt like an eternity, neither of them speaking, just holding on. That week, Sophie called her supervisor and requested extended leave. She and Daniel decided she would stay with us indefinitely to help care for Harold. Daniel would join us on weekends, driving 4 hours round trip every Friday and Sunday. For the next 8 months, Sophie was Harold's shadow. She helped him out of bed every morning. She prepared his medications. She cooked his meals, even when he could only manage a few bites. She read to him when he was too weak to hold a book. She sat by his bed at night, holding his hand while he slept. Diana was another story entirely. She called when we first told her, but the conversation was brief. She said she was sorry that it was terrible news, but she had important meetings she could not cancel. She would try to visit soon. Try. That word still stings. Over the next several months, Diana came to see her father exactly 4 times. 4 times in 8 months. Each visit lasted no more than 2 days, and she spent most of that time on her phone or complaining about the accommodations. She stayed at a hotel because she said the house was too depressing. On one of her visits, I overheard her talking to Harold in his bedroom. I was not trying to eavesdrop. I was just bringing him his medication when I heard her voice through the door. "Dad," she was saying, "I need to know about the will." "Have you finalized everything? I just want to make sure there are no surprises." I froze in the hallway, my heart sinking. Harold's response was quiet, but firm. "Diana, I am dying. Is that really what you want to talk about?" "I just want to make sure I am prepared," she said. "You know, for the transition." Harold did not answer. After a long silence, I heard Diana sigh and leave the room. She walked past me in the hallway without meeting my eyes. That night, Harold asked me to sit with him. He was having one of his better days, lucid and alert, but I could see the shadow of death creeping closer. Myra, he said, I need you to promise me something. Anything. When I am gone, no matter what happens, remember that I loved you more than anything in this world. And remember that I made provisions for you. Trust the process, even when it seems darkest. I started to cry, and he wiped my tears with his trembling hand. You are the love of my life, he whispered. I would move mountains to protect you, even from the grave. A week before Harold died, he called Sophie into his room for a private conversation. They talked for over an hour. When Sophie emerged, her eyes were red, but there was a determined set to her jaw. She hugged me tightly and whispered, Dad knows what he is doing. Trust him. Harold asked to speak with Diana too, but she was not there. He called her and asked her to come. She said she would try. She arrived 2 days before he passed, and their conversation lasted only 10 minutes. When Diana walked out of his room, she looked annoyed rather than grieved. She said he was confused, talking about lessons and consequences. She rolled her eyes and went to the kitchen to make herself coffee. Harold died on a quiet morning in November. The autumn leaves were falling outside his window, and the light was soft and golden. Sophie and I were with him. I was holding his hand when he took his last breath. Sophie was reading aloud from the book of poetry he loved. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. And it shattered me completely. Diana arrived 2 hours later after it was all over. She walked into the room where Harold's body still lay, looked at him for a long moment, and then asked what time the funeral home was coming. The funeral was 3 days later. Over 300 people came to pay their respects. Harold had touched so many lives throughout his career through his charity work, through simple acts of kindness that rippled outward for decades. Diana played the role of grieving daughter perfectly. She wore a beautiful black dress and dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. She accepted condolences with practiced grace. She gave a eulogy that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Everyone except me. I knew that she had barely seen her father in his final months. I knew that her tears were as manufactured as her sympathy. Sophie stood quietly in the background, accepting hugs from friends and family, making sure everyone had food and water, taking care of every detail, so I did not have to. She did not give a eulogy. She said she did not need the world to know how much she loved her father. She only needed him to have known. After the funeral, something strange happened. Diana did not leave. She stayed at the house, sleeping in her old room, eating meals with me, helping with thank you notes and paperwork. She was solicitous and attentive in a way she had not been in years. For a brief moment, I let myself hope. Maybe Harold's death had changed her. Maybe facing mortality had softened her heart. 2 weeks after the funeral, we gathered at Thomas Brennan's office for the reading of the will. It was a grey December day, cold and overcast. Sophie had driven up from her home. Diana had stayed at the house, insisting on accompanying me to the lawyer's office. Thomas was a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. He had known Harold for over 20 years and had handled all of our legal affairs. When we entered his office, he shook each of our hands and offered his condolences once more. We sat around a mahogany conference table, Diana on one side, Sophie and me on the other. Thomas opened a leather folder and began to read. The first part of the will was straightforward. Harold left some money to charity, some personal items to friends and family members. Then Thomas got to the main bequests. To my daughter Diana, he read, I leave the sum of $53 million in cash and investment holdings, as well as full ownership of the family home at 427 Maple Street, Portland, Oregon. I felt my heart stop. $53 million. The house. Everything. Diana's face lit up, though she tried to hide it. I saw her fingers tighten on the armrest of her chair. I saw the gleam of triumph in her eyes. Thomas continued. To my daughter Sophie, I leave the sum of $5 million to be used as she sees fit. Sophie did not react. She just sat there quietly, her hands folded in her lap. I waited for Thomas to mention my name. Harold and I had been married for 39 years. Surely he had left me something. Surely he had not forgotten me. But Thomas was gathering his papers as if the reading was complete. Excuse me? Diana said, her voice crisp and businesslike. Is there anything else? Any codicils or amendments? Thomas paused. Yes, actually. There is a supplementary document that details certain conditions and provisions. Conditions. Diana's smile faltered. Yes. Perhaps we should go through it now. That will not be necessary, Diana said quickly. We have all the information we need. If there are conditions, you can send me a written summary. I have appointments this afternoon. She stood up, clearly eager to leave before any complications could arise. Diana Thomas said firmly, I strongly advise that we complete the full reading today. Your father was very specific about the order and timing of these disclosures. But Diana was already putting on her coat. We will schedule a follow-up, she said. Mother, are you ready to go? I looked at Sophie, who was watching Diana with an unreadable expression. Something told me to stay. Something told me there was more. But Diana took my arm and practically pulled me out of the office. Sophie followed reluctantly, pausing at the door to exchange a look with Thomas. We will be in touch, she told him quietly. The drive home was silent. Diana was practically vibrating with excitement, though she tried to conceal it. I sat in the passenger seat feeling numb. $53 million to Diana. $5 million to Sophie. Nothing for me. Had Harold forgotten me? Had he assumed Diana would take care of me? After everything we had shared, everything we had built together, had I been an afterthought, that night everything changed. Diana waited until after dinner to reveal her true intentions. We were sitting in the living room, the same room where Harold and I had spent countless evenings reading and talking and simply being together. Mother Diana said, her voice cold and businesslike. We need to discuss the house. What about the house? It belongs to me now, and frankly, it does not make sense for you to stay here. I stared at her, not comprehending. What do you mean? I mean, I am going to sell it. This property is worth at least $4 million. I already have buyers interested. Sell it, Diana. I have lived here for 42 years. This is my home. Diana sighed as if I were a difficult child. It was your home. Now it is mine. And I have plans for the money. Sophie, who had been sitting quietly, spoke up. Diana? You cannot be serious. Where is Mum supposed to go? Diana turned to her sister with a contemptuous smile. That is not really my problem, is it? She has $5 million coming to her way through you. She can buy herself a nice little condo somewhere. Or better yet, a room in an assisted living facility. She is 67 years old. It is time she accepted that she cannot live independently forever. I could not speak. I could not breathe. This was my daughter, the baby I had held in my arms, the little girl I had taught to ride a bike, the woman I had loved unconditionally for 37 years. Diana, I finally managed. Please. This house is all I have left of your father. Diana stood up and looked down at me with an expression of pure contempt. Dad is dead, she said flatly. Holding on to this house will not bring him back. You need to move on. Find somewhere else to live. Find somewhere else to... She paused, and what she said next will haunt me forever. Find somewhere else to die. Sophie was on her feet instantly. "How dare you?" she said, her voice shaking with fury. "How dare you speak to our mother that way?" Diana just shrugged. "I am being practical. Something this family has never been good at. Mother, you have 1 week to gather your things. After that, I am listing the property." She walked out of the room without looking back. Sophie knelt beside me and took my hands. They were trembling. My whole body was trembling. "Mum," she said gently, "we will figure this out. This is not over." But I could not hear her. All I could hear was my daughter's voice echoing in my ears. "Find somewhere else to die." The next morning, Sophie helped me pack. I moved through the house like a ghost, touching walls I had painted with Harold floors we had sanded together windowsills where I had placed family photographs for 4 decades. I packed the essentials: clothes, toiletries, a few photo albums, Harold's watch, his favourite cardigan that still smelled like him. The copy of Jane Eyre we had both reached for in that bookstore so many years ago. Diana did not come out of her room while we packed. I do not know if she was avoiding me or simply did not care. Either way, she was absent as I said goodbye to the only home I had ever known. Sophie drove me to her house in the country. It was a 2-hour drive through winding roads and winter landscapes. I did not speak the entire way. I could not. Every word felt like it would break something inside me. When we arrived, Daniel was waiting on the porch. He hugged me without saying anything, and somehow that was exactly what I needed. No platitudes, no false comfort, just the warmth of someone who cared. They gave me their guest room, a cozy space with a window overlooking the garden. Sophie had already put fresh flowers on the nightstand and extra blankets on the bed. She knew how cold I always got at night. That first night, I did not sleep. I lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what had happened. My husband was gone. My daughter had betrayed me. My home had been taken from me. In the span of a few months, I had lost everything. I thought about Harold and his calm confidence in those final weeks. I thought about the provisions he had mentioned. I thought about the way Thomas Brennan had tried to continue the reading. What had Harold planned? What was in that supplementary document Diana had refused to hear? For the first time since Harold's death, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. The next 2 days passed in a blur of grief and exhaustion. Sophie took care of me like I was the child, and she was the parent. She brought me meals I could not eat. She sat with me when I cried. She held my hand when the waves of despair threatened to pull me under. On the 3rd day, the phone rang. Sophie answered, and I watched her expression shift from surprise to understanding to something that looked almost like relief. "It is Thomas Brennan," she told me. "He needs to see us. All 3 of us. He says it is urgent." I did not want to go. I did not want to see Diana again. I did not want to sit in that cold conference room and hear more ways in which I had been forgotten. But Sophie knelt beside my chair and looked into my eyes. "Mum," she said softly, "Dad would want you to go. He told me to trust the process, and I believe there is something in that Will Diana did not want to hear. We need to find out what it is." I thought about Harold's words on the night before he died. Trust the process, even when it seems darkest. "Okay," I whispered. "I will go." The drive back to Portland felt surreal. I watched the scenery pass without really seeing it. My mind was racing with possibilities, fears, hopes. We arrived at Thomas Brennan's office at 2 in the afternoon. Diana was already there, sitting in the waiting room with an expression of profound irritation. She was wearing expensive clothes and new jewelry purchases made with her inheritance, no doubt. "This is ridiculous," she said when she saw us. "I do not have time for this. I have a meeting with a real estate agent at 4. Thomas appeared in the doorway of his office. "Thank you all for coming. Please come in." We filed into the conference room and took our seats. Diana sat as far from me as possible, her arms crossed her foot, tapping impatiently. "I called you here," Thomas began, "because the reading of Harold's will was not completed at our last meeting. There is a supplementary document that contains important conditions and provisions that must be disclosed to all parties." Diana rolled her eyes. "Fine. Read it. Let us get this over with." Thomas opened his folder and began. "This document is titled Supplementary Provisions to the Last Will and Testament of Harold James Richardson," he read. It states, "The bequests outlined in the primary will are subject to the conditions detailed herein. These conditions must be read in full to all beneficiaries before any transfer of assets can be finalized." Diana shifted in her seat, suddenly less confident. Thomas continued. "Regarding the bequest to my daughter, Diana Richardson, the sum of $53 million and the family home at 427 Maple Street are granted with the following condition. Diana must demonstrate within 30 days of the initial reading of this will that she is capable of treating her mother, Myra Richardson, with respect, dignity, and love." The room went silent. Diana's face had gone pale. Thomas kept reading. Specifically, Myra must be permitted to remain in the family home for as long as she desires. She must not be pressured, coerced, or forced to leave. She must be treated as an honored member of the household, not as a burden or an obstacle. Diana's mouth opened, but no words came out. If Diana fails to meet these conditions, Thomas continued, all assets designated to her in the primary will shall be immediately transferred to my daughter, Sophie Richardson, who will assume responsibility for managing the estate and caring for Myra. I looked at Sophie. Her eyes were glistening, but she did not look surprised. She had known. Harold had told her. To ensure compliance with these conditions, Thomas read, "I have appointed Thomas Brennan as the executor and arbiter. He has full authority to determine whether the conditions have been met." Thomas set down the paper and looked directly at Diana. "Diana," he said quietly, "when your mother came to my office 3 days ago, I asked her some questions about the past weeks. She told me that you demanded she leave the house. She told me you said, and I quote, 'find somewhere else to die.'" Diana's face went from pale to ashen. "Based on that testimony, and corroborated by Sophie's account, I have determined that you have failed to meet the conditions of your father's will. As of today, all assets are transferred to Sophie." "No?" Diana gasped. "No, that is not fair. I did not know about the conditions. Nobody told me." "That is precisely why your father included them," Thomas said. "He wanted to see what you would do when you thought no one was watching, when you thought there were no consequences." Diana turned to me, her eyes wild. "Mother, tell him you were exaggerating. Tell him I did not mean it." I looked at my daughter, this stranger who had once been my baby girl. I felt no anger, only sadness. "I cannot lie for you, Diana," I said quietly. "You know what you said. You know what you did." Diana crumpled. For the first time in her life, there was no one to save her. No way to talk herself out of trouble. No money to make the problem disappear. Thomas reached into his folder and pulled out 3 envelopes. "Harold left letters for each of you," he said. "I was instructed to deliver them at this time." He handed 1 envelope to Diana, 1 to Sophie, and 1 to me. My name was written on the front, in Harold's handwriting. My heart ached at the sight of it. "I will give you privacy to read these," Thomas said. "Take as long as you need." He left the room, closing the door behind him. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Sophie opened her envelope. Diana opened hers. I opened mine. Harold's voice spoke to me through his words, as clear as if he were sitting beside me. "My dearest Myra, The letter began. If you are reading this, then my worst fears have come true. Diana has shown you her true nature, and you have been hurt by the child we raised together. I am so sorry, my love. I am sorry I could not protect you from this pain. But I hope you also know that I never abandoned you. I never forgot you. Everything I did to keep you safe. The house is yours, Myra. It has always been yours. Not because of any legal document, but because you are its heart. You are the one who made it a home. You are the one who filled it with love. I know you will forgive Diana eventually. That is who you are. Your capacity for love has always been greater than mine. But please, for my sake, do not forgive too quickly. Let her learn. Let her grow. She needs this lesson more than she needs our money. Sophie will take care of everything. I have prepared her for this responsibility. She is stronger than she looks, just like her mother. Live well, my darling. Laugh when you can. Remember me when the roses bloom. And know that wherever I am still loving you. Forever yours, Harold. Tears streamed down my face as I read his words again and again. Across the table, Sophie was crying too, pressing her letter to her heart. Diana sat frozen, her letter in her lap. The colour had drained completely from her face. I could see her hands shaking. After a long silence, she looked up at me. Her eyes were red. "Mom," she whispered, "I am so sorry." I did not respond. I was not ready yet. The wound was too fresh, the betrayal too deep. Sophie reached over and took my hand. "We should go home," she said gently. We left Diana alone in that conference room with her letter and her regrets. The months that followed were a journey through grief and healing, through darkness and slowly returning light. I moved back into my home, the Victorian house, where I had spent 42 years with Harold. Sophie and Daniel helped me settle in. They came every weekend at first, then every other weekend as I grew stronger. The house felt different without Harold. Emptier, quieter. But it also felt like a sanctuary. Every room held memories. Every corner whispered his name. I started small, tending the rose garden he had loved, making his favourite meals even though I was the only one eating them, playing his old records on Sunday mornings, reading his books, wearing his cardigan. Some days were harder than others. Some mornings I woke up reaching for him, forgetting for one blissful moment that he was gone. The remembering was always painful. But slowly, painfully, I learned to carry the loss without being crushed by it. Sophie took on the responsibility Harold had given her with grace and wisdom. She managed the estate, carefully investing conservatively, giving generously to causes Harold had believed in. She never touched the money for herself. She and Daniel continued to live, simply finding joy in their work and in each other. As for Diana, she disappeared from our lives for several months. The terms of Harold's will included a provision for her, a small sum enough to live on modestly for a year, but only if she agreed to attend intensive therapy. At first, she refused. She moved into a small apartment and tried to rebuild her life on her own terms. But eventually, something shifted. Maybe it was the loneliness. Maybe it was the shame. Maybe Harold's letter had finally penetrated the armor she had built around her heart. 1 year after that day in the lawyer's office, Diana called me. Her voice was different, softer, humbled. "Mum," she said, "I have been in therapy for 8 months. I have been doing a lot of work, and I need to see you. I need to apologize properly." I agreed to meet her not because I was ready to forgive, but because Harold had asked me to give her the chance to learn. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Diana looked older, more careworn, but also more real. The polish and pretense had been stripped away. She did not make excuses. She did not try to justify what she had done. She simply said she was sorry. She said she had been selfish and cruel and blind. She said she understood if I never forgave her, but she wanted me to know that she was trying to become a better person. I listened. I cried. And finally I hugged her. It was not forgiveness, not exactly. The trust between us had been broken, and trust takes time to rebuild. But it was a beginning, a crack in the wall, a first step on a long road. Now, 2 years after Harold's death, our family has found a new equilibrium. Sophie and I are closer than ever. Diana calls me every week. She has started volunteering at a homeless shelter, following in her sister's footsteps in her own way. She is still learning, still growing, still making mistakes. But she is trying. And me. I am still living in the house Harold and I built together. I tend my roses. I read my books. I sit on the porch on summer evenings and remember the sound of his guitar. I have learned that betrayal does not have to be the end of the story. That pain can be transformed into wisdom, that even the deepest wounds can heal if we give them enough time and love. Harold protected me even from beyond the grave. He saw what was coming, and he prepared for it. His love was not just words, it was action. It was foresight. It was a plan. And that is the lesson I want to leave with you today. Money can reveal who people truly are. It can bring out the best in some and the worst in others. But money is not the most important thing. Love is. Integrity is. The way we treat the people who have cared for us is. If you have someone in your life who loves you, tell them today. Do not wait. Do not assume they know. Say the words. Do the actions. Make the provisions. And if someone is treating you badly, remember that you deserve better. You deserve respect. You deserve dignity. You deserve to be treated like the precious person you are. Harold knew that. He made sure I would never forget it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted? How did you heal? What lessons did you learn? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel if you want more stories about family resilience and the power of love that extends beyond the grave. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you carry a little piece of Harold's wisdom with you as you go about your day. May you be surrounded by people who truly love you. May you have the courage to protect what matters most. And may you always remember that your worth is not measured by what you inherit, but by the love you give and the kindness you show. Take care of yourselves and each other.